Imagine that your brain is like an airplane cockpit with many dials and displays. One of the central dials would be labeled cognitive ease and would calibrate for whether or not your mind is at ease or under great strain. It is constantly monitoring the environment, asking questions like, is there anything new going on? Are things going well? Should my attention be redirected, or do I need more effort for this task? This dial is particularly powerful because it either allows System 1 to calmly and quickly intuit responses, or engages System 2 to critically assess the situation. In Chapter 5 of Thinking, Fast and Slow, Daniel Kahneman offers this figure to help explain how this dynamic works. The dial is at ease when we are exposed to a repeated experience, have a visually clear display to look at, have been primed for an idea, and are in a generally good mood. This results in our System 1 intuitions feeling effortless, familiar, good, and even true. Let's look into this a bit further. Consider these three names: David Stenbill, Monica Bogutsky, and Shana Tarana. Now, these names are made up and are not associated with celebrities. However, a few days from now, if you were asked to pick out celebrity names from a long list of names, these three names might stand out to you as possibilities simply because you have seen them before. David Stenbill would stand out because it has been repeated, and you will recognize it more quickly than other unknown names. The more the name David Stenbill is put in your consciousness, the more likely you are to associate some kind of previous experience with it, even if it is meaningless and devoid of any other context. And just to make it more interesting, if every name on the list was blurry and slightly faded, you would more quickly read David Stenbill because your mind has been primed over and over again with that name. Psychologists call this phenomenon exposure effect. A famous experiment demonstrating its power was conducted at the University of Michigan. For some weeks, an ad space on the front page of a student paper simply displayed a Turkish-sounding word like Kadırga, Sarısık, Bewanjni, and Nansoma. Each one was shown at different frequencies. Some were shown 2 times, some 5 or 10, and some were shown 25 times. There was no context. The word simply showed prominently on the front page. When the ads ended, a survey was sent to the university community asking for impressions of the words and whether they meant something good or something bad. The results were clear. The words shown at a higher frequency were judged to mean something good, and the words shown less frequently were judged to mean something bad. Even devoid of meaning or context, repeated exposure to something gives us a sense of cognitive ease. It has been theorized that this is because we are hardwired to quickly assess if something in our environment is a threat. The more we are exposed to something without threat, the more we are wired to accept it as being something we can be at ease with. But we are not just persuaded by repetition and exposure. Compare these two statements. Both are false. Hitler was born in 1889. But experiments show that the bolded statement is more likely to be believed as true. The easier something is to read, the more comfortable System 1 is with accepting it. In fact, when logically false statements are presented in a blurry format, people are more likely to detect them as false precisely because System 2 is activated and people stop to critically read and think about the proposition. So if you want to be more persuasive, exposure and visual clarity go a long way, but it also helps to make it memorable. Consider these aphorisms. Woes unite foes. Little strokes will tumble great oaks. A fault confessed is half redressed. And now consider these variations. Woes unite enemies. Little strokes will tumble great trees. A fault admitted is half redressed. Research has shown that the more memorable an aphorism is due to the rhyming convention, the more insightful it is considered to be. And that not only goes for aphorisms that rhyme, it also goes for naming sources for the sake of building credibility. The easier a name is to pronounce, decode, or remember, the more likely people will resonate to it. In one experiment, stock advice from Artan was judged more likely to be true than stock advice from Taha Hoot. Finally, Research shows that being in a good mood enhances our intuition. Consider these 3 words. Can you think of a word that is associated with them? The answer, of course, is cheese. Now here is a harder one. The answer here is sky, and hopefully you felt it took longer to solve than the first set. Now imagine that you were showed sets of words like this and only have 2 seconds for each set to intuit whether they are related or not. You wouldn't have time to think it out. You simply would have to go with your gut. What researchers found is that when people are put in a good mood before doing this intuition test, their accuracy is remarkably higher than when they are in a bad mood. Somehow, beyond the reaches of what System 2 can do, System 1 can sense associations when it is cognitively at ease and free to do so. So if you want to be at your associative, creative, and persuasive best, keep these things in mind. Be clear, be repetitive, be memorable, and be happy.